Why your calm presence shakes the very foundation of their ego. It's because silence is power, a power that speaks louder than words, especially when you're dealing with someone who feeds off attention, control, and chaos. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden strength of staying silent when you're faced with narcissists. We'll explore how your silence hurts them, why they panic when they lose control, and how choosing peace over drama is not weakness, but a deep form of Imaan. These aren't just psychological facts, they're spiritual truths rooted in wisdom. So, if you've ever been manipulated, gaslighted, or emotionally drained by someone who only loved themselves, this is for you. Get ready to discover how your silence, your peace, and your trust in Allah can become your most powerful shield. Who is a narcissist according to Islam? A narcissist is someone who lives with an inflated image of themselves. They want to be praised constantly. They want to feel important all the time, and they deeply fear being ignored or rejected. They will often pretend to care for others, but in reality, they care only for themselves. They believe they are better, more deserving, and more special than everyone else. And when they are not treated that way, they feel insulted and react with anger, guilt-tripping, or manipulation. In Islam, this behavior is not just seen as rude or unhealthy, it is a spiritual sickness. It is something the Quran warns against because it leads to arrogance, injustice, and separation from the mercy of Allah. In Islam, arrogance is one of the greatest dangers to the soul. It is the very quality that led Shaitan to be thrown out of paradise. When he refused to bow to Adam, it was not because he didn't believe in Allah, it was because his pride told him he was better. This is the root of narcissism, a heart that refuses to humble itself, a soul that sees others as beneath it. The narcissist doesn't ask for forgiveness. They don't admit when they are wrong. They don't reflect on their actions. Instead, they blame others and twist the truth. If you catch them doing something hurtful, they will act like the victim. If you speak up, they will say you're overreacting. If you try to walk away, they'll chase you, not because they love you, but because they hate losing control. Their pride is more important to them than your pain. They might say beautiful words, but their heart is full of deception. And Islam teaches us that actions matter more than speech. A narcissist often appears religious or kind when in front of others, but behind closed doors, they hurt, shame, and silence those around them. This is not just a psychological issue, it is a matter of faith. Because a believer is not supposed to humiliate others, a true Muslim shows mercy, admits faults, seeks forgiveness, and never looks down on people. The narcissist does the opposite. They seek power through fear. They dominate through guilt. They charm through lies. But the Quran reminds us again and again that such behavior brings nothing but destruction in the end. It leads the person far from the path of peace, far from the pleasure of Allah, and far from the hearts of people. If you have ever been around such a person, you know how exhausting it feels. You feel like you're never enough. You start doubting yourself. You try to fix things, to please them, to avoid their anger, but no matter how hard you try, they are never satisfied, and slowly you begin to lose yourself. That is the hidden danger of narcissism. It doesn't just hurt others, it erases their confidence, silences their voice, and breaks their spirit. But Islam gives you hope. It reminds you that your worth is not based on the approval of a narcissist. Your value is not in their eyes, it is in the sight of Allah. And Allah never looks at your status or your beauty. He looks at your heart and your action. So if you have been hurt by someone who acts like they are always right, who refuses to say sorry, who never sees your pain, know that you are not alone. Islam understands this pain, and the first step to healing is recognizing that this behavior is not your fault. The second step is turning to Allah and asking Him for strength to walk away, for wisdom to see clearly, and for courage to protect your soul. Because you were not made to serve the ego of someone else. You were made to worship Allah, to live in peace, and to grow in light. And anyone who stands in the way of that peace no matter how close they are, is not helping your journey. They are only holding you back. And the most powerful thing you can do is break free with the help of Allah. Why? Silence hurts. A narcissist, silence is often misunderstood. Many people think silence means weakness, fear, or failure. But in reality, silence can be one of the most powerful responses you give, especially to someone who is used to controlling you. When dealing with a narcissist, your silence becomes their worst fear, because a narcissist lives on attention. They crave it like air, whether it's your anger, your tears, your begging, or your defending yourself. All of it feeds their ego. The moment you stop talking, stop reacting, stop explaining, you take that power away from them. You don't just walk away physically, you disconnect emotionally. And that is what truly hurts a narcissist, because they don't know what you're thinking anymore. They can no longer twist your words. They can't play their mind games. They are left alone with their own voice. And deep down, they know that voice is empty. When you go silent, it makes them feel invisible. They are no longer the center of your world. You are no longer depending on them for validation. You have chosen peace over drama, and that is something a narcissist cannot stand. Your silence becomes a wall they cannot climb. They may try harder to provoke you. They may say cruel things just to get a reaction. But when you stay silent, calm, and distant, it shakes them inside, because narcissists don't know how to deal with being ignored. They fear it. They fear losing control over your emotions. They fear the day you stop playing their game, and silence is that day. Silence tells them that you are done explaining yourself, done trying to fix what they keep breaking, done begging for respect. And when you choose silence, you are not just protecting your peace, you are protecting your dignity. You are telling them, without words, that they are no longer allowed to disturb your soul. And that is something they cannot handle, because control is their weapon, and silence breaks that weapon in half. You are no longer dancing to their rhythm. You are walking in your own direction, quietly but firmly. And that is why silence hurts them more than any argument ever could. They know they can't reach you anymore. They feel powerless, and that feeling is unbearable for someone who has always wanted to be in control. But for you, that silence becomes healing. It becomes strength. It becomes a connection with Allah, because when you stop turning to people who hurt you and start turning to Allah, you become unshakable. Your silence is no longer just silence. It is a message to the world that you are rising above, trusting your Lord, and leaving the noise behind. And that is something a narcissist will never understand. They can fake confidence, fake love, even fake faith, but they cannot fake peace. And when they see you walking in peace without them, they panic, because in their world, peace only exists if they control it. But in your world, peace comes from Allah. And when you stay silent for His sake, you gain something far more powerful than attention. You gain His nearness, you gain clarity, you gain healing, and that is something no narcissist can take away from you. Your silence is not emptiness. It is full of meaning. It is your shield. It is your strength. And most importantly, it is your way of saying, I no longer belong in the darkness. I choose light. I choose Allah. And that choice will always hurt those who wanted to keep you under their shadow. Narcissists panic because they lose control. A narcissist doesn't just want your love, your attention, or your time. They want control over your entire being. They want to shape the way you think, the way you feel, and even the way you see yourself. Their deepest fear is not losing your presence. It's losing the power they held over your emotions. When you were always responding to their messages, running to fix problems they caused, apologizing for things you didn't do, or constantly explaining yourself, they felt powerful. They believed they were the center of your world, the one who decided whether you were happy or broken. But the moment you pull back, the moment you stop reacting and stop playing their game, they begin to panic. That panic is not because they suddenly care about your feelings. It's because their illusion of power is starting to fall apart. They can no longer control the outcome of your thoughts. They can no longer use guilt, anger, or charm to pull you back in. You have become unpredictable, and to a narcissist, unpredictability is terrifying. Control is their safety net, and you removing yourself from their grip leaves them feeling naked and exposed. They may try to win you back with kindness. They may suddenly act sweet, humble, or even spiritual, but it's not sincere. It's all part of the act to get back inside your mind, because they are not comfortable unless they are pulling the strings. But when you become silent, distant, and emotionally free, you are no longer a puppet. You are a person who has decided to live for peace, for growth, and for the sake of Allah. And that's why the narcissist becomes restless. They see you walking away without looking back, and it shakes their sense of control. They don't know how to handle your silence because it tells them that you no longer fear them, no longer need them, and no longer trust them. That is the greatest insult to their ego. They believed they had permanent power over you. They thought you would always come back, no matter how much they mistreated you. But your silence proves them wrong, and that is what makes them panic, because control was their identity, and without it, they feel worthless. But the beauty is, you don't need to fight, you don't need to scream or explain. Your silence does it all. It speaks louder than any words. It tells them, I have found peace, and I won't trade it for confusion. I have found clarity, and I won't return to chaos. I have found my value in the eyes of Allah, and I won't lower it for anyone's approval. And this loss of control drives the narcissist into fear. Not fear of losing you, but fear of losing the ability to use you. Because deep down, they know that they don't bring peace into your life. They bring pain, and your silence is proof that you've finally realized it. So they panic, they act out, they try harder, but the more they try, the more obvious their weakness becomes. Because true strength is silent. True peace doesn't shout, and your calm detachment is more powerful than any argument. You no longer feed their control. You no longer let their anger shape your emotions. You are now free to think, free to grow, free to rebuild your life with Allah at the center. And that freedom is something a narcissist cannot give you. Only Allah can. And when you receive it, you hold on to it with your soul. Because no one who truly walks with Allah will ever want to walk in the shadow of someone who only wants power. The moment you chose silence, you chose strength. And the moment they lost control, they lost you. And that loss is their greatest fear. Silence is a sunnah of the wise. Silence is not just a reaction. It is a powerful wisdom that only the strong carry. It is not the silence of weakness, but the silence of strength. The kind of silence that says, I know my worth, and I don't need to explain it to anyone. In Islam, silence is not empty. It is full of thought, full of patience, and full of peace. It is a sunnah of the wise. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the most powerful man in Arabia, yet he chose silence many times. When people mocked him, insulted him, or tried to provoke him, he responded with calmness, not chaos. He didn't waste his energy trying to prove himself to people who didn't want to understand. He taught us that silence is a form of worship when speaking would lead to harm. In a world that is loud with noise, opinions, and anger, silence becomes a rare treasure. It is a sign of a soul that is in control. A soul that is not shaken by every insult, not disturbed by every lie, and not triggered by every whisper. When you stay silent in the face of a narcissist, you are not losing, you are winning, because you are refusing to lower your dignity to their level. You are refusing to let them pull you into arguments that only drain your heart. You are guarding your peace, and in doing so, you are protecting your connection with Allah. The wise know that not every battle is worth fighting. Not every word deserves a reply, and not every person deserves access to your emotions. Some people speak only to control you, not to understand you. And when you choose silence, you take back that control. You give yourself time to think, time to breathe, and most importantly, time to heal. Because in silence, you begin to hear your own soul again. You hear what matters, what hurts, and what needs Allah's help. The wise know that silence is a shield. It blocks the poison of the tongue. It stops the spread of lies. It keeps the fire of anger from growing. It is a way to avoid sins and protect your heart. And when you are silent for the sake of Allah, it becomes an act of faith. It becomes a sign that you trust Him to handle what your words cannot. You are saying through your silence that you don't need to prove anything, because Allah knows the truth, and His knowledge is enough for you. The Prophet, peace be upon him, once said that whoever believes in Allah and the last day should speak good or remain silent. That is not a small advice. It is a life lesson. Speak only when it brings benefit. Speak only when your words build, not break. And when words will only feed the ego of a toxic person, stay silent. That silence will protect you more than 1,000 arguments ever could. The wise know when to speak and when to be still. They don't let their emotions control their tongue. They don't speak just to be heard. They speak with purpose. And when that purpose is not there, they keep quiet. You don't need to explain yourself to people who don't want to understand. You don't need to shout to prove you're right. Your silence speaks for itself. It says, I am not here to please your ego. I am here to protect my soul. And that is the path of the wise. That is the Sunnah of those who walk closely with Allah. So let your silence be strong. Let it be intentional. Let it be a reminder to yourself that you don't belong in chaos. You belong in peace, and peace often begins in silence. When the world is pulling you into noise, arguments and confusion, take a step back, breathe, remember Allah, and choose the silence of the wise over the noise of the proud. Because silence is not a gap between words. It is a space where the heart reconnects with its Lord. Your peace makes them fearful. There is something incredibly powerful about a person who walks in peace. Not just on the outside, but deep inside. A calmness that doesn't shake when others shout. A stillness that doesn't break when others try to provoke. And that kind of peace terrifies a narcissist, because a peaceful person is impossible to control. A peaceful person is not desperate for approval, not addicted to praise, and not shaken by rejection. Your peace makes a narcissist fearful because they can no longer get inside your head. They can no longer make you feel guilty for things you didn't do. They can no longer make you question your worth. They see that you are not angry, not bitter, not reactive, and it confuses them. Because in their world, silence means plotting, calm means fake, stillness means weakness. But in your world, peace means you have handed your affairs over to Allah. You are no longer begging people to understand you. You are no longer chasing closure from someone who was never honest. You are no longer seeking healing from the one who caused the wound. Instead, you are healing through prayer, through patience, through trust in your Lord. And that terrifies the narcissist, because peace means you are done with their chaos. You no longer cry over their silence. You no longer explain yourself to someone who refuses to listen. You no longer live in their shadow. And that peace is power. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, but it's unshakable. You smile not because everything is perfect, but because you have found a deeper strength in your heart. A strength that comes from Allah. A strength that says, I don't need to shout to be heard. I don't need to fight to be free. I don't need you to feel whole. And that peace removes the fear from your soul and puts it into theirs. They start asking questions. Why are you so calm? Why aren't you begging anymore? Why aren't you defending yourself? Why aren't you broken? Because they expected you to fall apart. They expected you to run back. They expected you to keep the cycle going. But when they see you rising in silence, standing in peace, and glowing with light, it terrifies them, because now you have something they can't touch. Your mind is clear, your heart is guarded, your soul is safe. They no longer have access to your pain, and that is what they fed on. But now your peace has built a wall of strength, a wall of self-worth, a wall of trust in Allah, and they can't climb it, because it was built through tears, through patience, and through faith. You have transformed your pain into peace, and that transformation is what they fear the most. They don't fear losing you, they fear losing the version of you they could control. But that version is gone. You've grown, you've healed, you've found your voice in silence, and your peace is now louder than their manipulation. Your peace reminds them of what they lack. It shines in a way their false confidence cannot. It stands tall without needing attention, and that peace makes them feel small, because no matter how much they pretend, they can't fake the kind of stillness that comes from Allah. So protect your peace. Guard it like a treasure. Don't let their fear bring you back into chaos. Don't let their panic trick you into thinking you owe them your silence. You owe them nothing, but you owe yourself the right to grow, to breathe, and to walk in peace. Let them fear your calm. Let them wonder how you healed, and let your peace speak the truth your words no longer need to say. Letting go is a form of Imaan. Letting go is one of the hardest things a person can do, especially when your heart is involved, especially when your hopes were real and your intentions were pure. But sometimes the most powerful proof of your faith is not in holding on, it's in letting go, not because you've stopped caring, not because you've become cold, but because you finally understand that your peace, your worth, and your future are not tied to someone who keeps breaking your soul. Letting go is not giving up. It is giving in to the will of Allah. It is a deep, quiet whisper from your heart that says, I trust you, my Lord, more than I trust myself. It is the courage to walk away from what hurts, even when it once felt like everything. It is the belief that Allah sees your tears, hears your silence, and knows the heaviness you carry alone. And it is the strength to say, if this person, this situation, or this path is not good for me, then I let it go for your sake. That is not weakness, that is Imaan. Because Imaan teaches you that your heart belongs to Allah, not to the hands of people. Imaan teaches you that what leaves you was never meant for you, and what is meant for you will never leave you. When you let go of a narcissist, you are not losing, you are saving yourself. You are stepping away from manipulation, from control, from the endless cycle of pain and confusion. You are saying, I was not created to be hurt over and over again. I was created to worship Allah, to grow in peace, to live in dignity, and sometimes that worship is silent. Sometimes it is done with tears behind closed doors. Sometimes it is done by walking away when your soul is no longer safe. And that choice, that hard, brave, beautiful choice, is a sign that your Imaan is alive. People may not understand it. They may say, you gave up. But only Allah knows the strength it took to stay silent instead of shouting. Only Allah knows the nights you cried asking for clarity. Only Allah knows how heavy it felt to walk away from someone you prayed would change. And that is what makes your letting go so powerful. It is a decision made not by the ego, but by the soul. It is made in full trust that Allah will fill the emptiness, heal the wounds, and write a better story for you. Sometimes letting go means you're finally choosing yourself, your well-being, your happiness, your future. And that is not selfish. That is self-respect. That is self-love, built on the foundation of loving your Creator. Because you finally understand that if a person continues to harm your peace, they are not a blessing, they are a test. And the sooner you let go, the sooner you pass that test. Don't let the fear of being alone stop you. You are never truly alone when you have Allah. Don't let the fear of starting over keep you stuck. With every ending, Allah writes a new beginning. Letting go is not closing a door. It is opening a new one. A door that leads to healing, to hope, to growth. And you deserve that. You deserve peace that doesn't come with pain. You deserve love that doesn't come with fear. You deserve relationships that don't break your soul. And you deserve a heart that is full of faith, full of calm, full of Allah. So if you're holding on to someone who keeps hurting you, take a deep breath and ask yourself, am I holding on because of faith or because of fear? If it is fear, then let go and let Allah catch you. Let Him carry you. Let Him write your story in a way no one else can. Because the moment you let go is the moment He steps in, and His plans are always better than your pain. So hold your head high, walk away with peace in your heart, and remind yourself, letting go is not losing faith, it is living it. When you choose silence, you're not being weak, you're rising above. You're saying, I don't need to fight for peace, I already have it. And when you let go of toxic people, you're not losing anything. You're making space for what Allah wants to give you: strength, clarity, and real love. The narcissist may panic, but your silence is your victory. Because in silence, there is wisdom, in patience, there is power, and in trust in Allah, there is peace. So keep walking with dignity, and remember, your worth is never defined by those who couldn't see it.